The reason why I want to talk about this topic is because I had a couple of conversations with some of my clients just in the past few days, and it really inspired me to talk about this. And one conversation I found really interesting, and I wanted to share it with you. I'm not going to go into too much detail about who this was and etc. because obviously, I have confidentiality as a coach, but I can kind of talk around it a little bit without giving too much details away. But so the client that I was talking to had been feeling a lot of pressure in their creative process, which caused them to not be able to finish tracks. And it actually caused them to not even being able to get started. And this pressure came from a very, very early experience in the dance music industry, having worked with a manager, having been on a certain timeline. You make agreements, you agree on pushing out a certain amount of tracks or albums or whatever that looks like in that agreement. And then they shared with me that first and foremost, the pressure came from the fact that the manager was chasing them a lot about their tracks, sending messages, like, have you finished it yet? Have you finished it yet? And when you're in the midst of a creative process, when somebody is in your ear asking you if it's finished already, obviously that's causing stress and pressure, right? And secondly, more importantly, the pressure came from the feeling that they were making music to please others, and in this case, to please the manager. So the pressure also came from feeling like there was this outside force. In this case, it was a manager that was putting pressure on the creative process and on the person to give a certain output by a certain amount of time, and meeting the expectations of an outside force. Now, I wanted to talk about this because we've talked through this story and talked through how we can change that feeling. Obviously, we don't want anybody to have to go into a creative process feeling that kind of pressure. And you want to initially be able to make the music for you so that you can feel proud of it, so that you can feel satisfied with your work, so that you can make tracks that you can be happy with, right? Like that's what you want. You don't want to be going into this process feeling that stress. The process itself and any kind of process is not supposed to feel stressful. It's supposed to make you feel, you know, at peace. It's supposed to make you feel excited, motivated. You are making music for a certain reason, and for a lot of you it's because you want people to feel a certain way. That's the impact that you want to have on the lives of people. And so you don't want that to be a pressured kind of situation. You want to be able to make music for you. But as soon as these outside kind of factors come in, that's where oftentimes the pressure begins. Now, the thing is, what I want you to really, really think about and take in is that pressure is actually an internal factor. Okay? Pressure is a reaction from something inside of you to an external circumstance. It is not that external factor that is actually making you feel pressured, because that's not possible. I know this sounds probably like something that you find hard to believe, but I want to demonstrate this with actually two real life examples from clients of mine who have responded to the exact same situation in completely different ways. Okay? So, again, pressure is a reaction that you have that comes from an internal state, and that internal state is what you project onto the external circumstance, because the external circumstance is neutral. So when you feel pressure in your creative process, or even just in life, pressured maybe to, usually it's around having to make a decision, right? Like when you're making music, like in the story of my clients, they were making music, they had a manager, they had agreements, there were certain expectations. And so decisions had to be made, decisions on, when am I going to work on this? When is this supposed to be ready? How is this supposed to sound? What gear am I going to use? Navigating all of these expectations, obviously, as well from the label, from the manager. So it's constantly having to make decisions. And when you're not able to make decisions, you feel that pressure. And you feel that pressure because you don't trust yourself enough to be able to make the right decision, or because you are afraid that you will make the wrong decision, and you just stop and you don't do anything. And this is the interesting thing about pressure: it causes you to procrastinate. I always like to say procrastination is the pressure to be perfect. And so when you feel that pressure to be perfect, when you feel that pressure to, constantly thinking about, I have to make the right decision, this has to be perfect, this has to be so and so and so, otherwise it's not good enough, it causes you to procrastinate and you don't do anything. So that pressure is an internal state that you project onto the external circumstance. That's what pressure really is. Pressure can never ever come from something or someone outside of you that is making you feel that. It is your reaction to that. And I want to kind of emphasize the word reaction, because reactive people tend to react to circumstances outside of them, rather than manage their responses and choose how they're going to respond. So, a person who is reactive lets outside circumstances and outside conditions determine how they're going to feel. A proactive person is going to choose their responsibility, the ability to choose your response. That makes a proactive person more capable of navigating decisions that feel good to them, and they don't let outside circumstances determine their internal state. Okay. So again, I want to demonstrate this with an example from two clients of mine who have responded to the exact same situation, which was neutral. And you will see through these examples that it's really how you project your internal state onto the situation that makes or breaks the situation. Again, if you're tuning in live, say hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, say hashtag replay. If you already have any questions around this, please let me know. I would be happy to have a discussion and a conversation around this with you. Okay, so here's the example. So how do I begin? Okay, so I have in my business a system of following up with my leads, or I like to call my pre-clients. So when I have invited somebody into my world, whichever way they came in, whether it was in this Facebook group or in my LinkedIn group, or they were referred to me by a partner of mine, whichever way they come into my world, I always start with building a relationship with any person that comes into my world. So I will send them messages, whether it's via email or via Messenger DM or on LinkedIn or Instagram or on the phone, whatever it is, however way they came into my world, I instantly start building a relationship. I want to connect with that person, check in with that person, why they decided to join me in my world, what they struggle with in music, particularly as it relates to procrastination, perfectionism, or pressure in music as a DJ producer. And I start building this relationship by having this conversation with them, and asking questions so that I can gauge how I can actually be of service to them. Okay. So it's really important for me to ask these questions, to cultivate that relationship so that I can discover how I can be of the best service I can possibly be. And so what I then will do is, once I've gotten some answers, I will, kind of put together an idea of, okay, this is how I think I can help this person. And then I will invite them on a free call, which is a 30-minute breakthrough call, which we use to really get clarity on the exact things that are blocking you mentally, so that I can help you to get confident about your next steps to overcome that block, whether it's procrastination pressure or perfectionism, so that you are able to actually move forward and move the needle in dance music. So that call is important for me, so that I can get more information on what exactly is holding you back. And again, dive deeper into, okay, finding out how exactly can I help you, and worst case scenario, if I can't, then at least I can make a few recommendations and make sure that you step away from that breakthrough call with the insights and the clarity that you need, so that you can get confident about your next steps to overcome your procrastination, your perfectionism, your pressure, so that you can finish your tracks, enjoy your creative process, find your next opportunity for a DJ gig, or whatever it is that looks like for you, whatever your goal is. You walk away from that call with insights and clarity, at least on getting confident about your next steps for you, which is also something that we talk in depth about on this call. Okay, so this is really kind of how I, cultivate relationships with my people. And if it makes sense to us, then we will talk about potentially collaborating, working together, and then I can see how I can sign you on as a client and in what capacity. Okay. So again, I do this with everybody who comes into my world, everybody, right? So exact same steps, you come into my world, I reach out to you, I ask you a few questions, I offer you to hop on a call with me. Now, most of my people who come into my world, most DJs and producers, struggle with their next steps. They're unsure. They really struggle with making decisions. They procrastinate on making decisions because they feel so blocked that it's debilitating. And so what I do is I keep cultivating that relationship by sending follow-ups. I will follow up after, for example, a week or two. If I haven't heard from you, I will say like, hey, just to see if you've gotten my previous message in good order. How are you feeling about this? I'm still very much looking forward to offering support for you. And, this free call offer is still yours if you want it. Let me know if maybe you're having trouble to finding the right time, with time zones and busy schedules. If there's anything that is holding you back or that you feel like is blocking you, let me know and we can find a solution together. So again, this is my way of showing you support, right? And I do follow-ups. I think that's normal. I do that, with my friends, with my family. It's building relationships. So I do follow-ups. And so here is where I want you to understand my example of external circumstances. I do this process for each and every person. Every person that comes into my world is equal to me. I'm not making any exceptions, okay? So this is the external circumstance. It's really neutral. You come into my world, I say hi, I figure out how I can help you, I offer you a call, I follow up with you, however feels good to me. And so here is where the pressure comes in. So a few weeks ago, I had a person who came into my world, I did my system, and I followed up. And they were really struggling with procrastination. And this was really something that, they really wanted to overcome. And so I followed up with them a few times, and they said, oh my God, thank you so much for these reminders. Thank you so much for sending these follow-ups. I really feel like I need this because I'm already struggling with procrastination so much, and I really tend to put things off so much. And so, yeah, thank you so much for doing these reminders, because if you wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have taken you up on the offer. And then in the meantime, this person and I hopped on the call, and this person stepped away with a lot of clarity and insights. And we've talked about next steps of potentially working together. That was situation number one. Again, circumstance, I'm cultivating a relationship with you. I follow the exact same path with everybody. Person number two responded to me after a few follow-ups. We've gotten really far in the process. This person had decided that they wanted to become a client, and then they kind of dropped off, which happens a lot as well. Again, I know my people, they tend to procrastinate. They really struggle with making decisions, especially if they fear that the decision that they will make will be the wrong one. And that's where the pressure comes in, okay? And so this person responded to me um, saying something along the lines of, I feel like these follow-ups have been kind of, you know, I feel a little bit too much pressured by these follow ups and these reminders and these offers from you, which somehow made me doubt if this want, this me wanting to get over my struggle in music, is coming from within or from an outside force. So you see two different reactions, same situation. What happened here is clearly to me, this tells me that this person struggles with pressure. And I, first and foremost, I do not take that personally because it is definitely not my intention to pressure anybody. So if anybody feels pressured, that's on them. That's their internal states that they are projecting onto the situation. And interestingly enough, this person said, this is making me doubt if this want is coming from inside of me or outside of me. That's not even possible. A want cannot come from outside of you. It just cannot. It's not like a desire is kind of like this thing that lives outside of you and that's coming to join you and say, hey, I am your desire. It's not possible. A desire comes from within you, from deep within you, and is deeply, deeply personal. Nobody else can want something for you. Nothing else can want something for you. You are the only person who can want something for you. And so this doubt that this person communicated to me told me like, oh, this person struggles with pressure so clearly because they struggle to trust themselves enough to make a decision on this and to move forward. And so basically what I said was literally what I said now. A want cannot come from outside of you. That's just impossible. It can only come from inside of you. And this tells me that you're feeling pressure, and that's something that we will definitely will want to look at when we're working together, because this probably overflows into other areas of your life as well, including music production. So this is clearly your block. This is your wall that you need to break through so that you can actually move forward with your goals, finishing tracks, putting an album out, whatever that looks like. And so what's really interesting with pressure, I want you to think about this whenever you feel pressure the next time. Think about what it is that maybe you are projecting onto that outside circumstance. And think about what it is inside of you that maybe is making you doubt yourself or your decisions. Because again, even though there's a lot of pressures outside of us, like pressure from society, pressure maybe from your family or your partner or a manager, like pressuring you, asking questions about when is this going to be done. Of course, there's also people out there who are intentionally putting pressure on people to get something from them. Those people are assholes, okay? So we're not entertaining that. And maybe sometimes people will unintentionally pressure you because they have pressure within themselves, because they are doubting themselves about certain decisions, and they will hurry other people along because they're like, oh my God, I'm feeling this pressure, okay? Also something you need to know. But so what I want to share with you now is two questions that you can ask yourself, and I invite you to put pen to paper, write these questions down and journal on them, okay? Write them down and kind of see what comes up for you and journal on them. So the questions I want you to journal on, I lost my notes again, are, okay, oh, here we go. First of all, I want you to ask yourself, are there certain rules that you have made up for yourself, kind of things that you feel like you should do, that you have created for yourself in music and in life, that you say you have to do in order to fill in the blank, for example, in order to be good enough, in order to finish your tracks, in order to get your next DJ gig, whatever it is, maybe you have put certain rules in place that you have to live by, that you have to create it for yourself, which are causing you to feel certain pressure. So really think about this question. Um, are you putting certain rules, quote unquote rules, in place for you to be able to do what it is that you want to do in electronic music as a DJ producer? I will give you an example of what I mean by these rules. Um, a client of mine, a previous client of mine, had certain rules in place about practicing music production skills. And the rule was, if I'm not going to be at this every day, I might as well not do it, because then it's not good enough. And that was a type of perfectionism that caused pressure, because every time she would sit down to work on her music, she would think, oh my God, this has to be it. This has to be perfect. This has to be really, really good. And if she felt like she couldn't sit down every single day to work on her music production, then that in itself wasn't perfect enough. And then she would rather not do it at all. And that caused her to have a lot of stress around the music process, right? And so we worked through that. So that could be an example of rules. Her rule was, I have to do this every day, otherwise it's not good enough. Maybe for you it's something else, but think about it. What rules do you have? And then number two, the next question I want you to ask yourself is, if you were already that next level DJ producer, that next level version of you, who already has fill in the blank, whatever your goal is, has that album out, has finished tracks, has that DJ gig, has that sync opportunity, has that label contract, whatever it is that the next version, DJ producer version of you wants. If you already were the next level version of you as a DJ producer who already has reached the goal that they want to reach, would you still do these things? Would you still have these rules? Think about it. Okay, so to kind of recap, when you feel pressure, think about why that is and how it is that you are projecting an internal state onto external circumstances, conditions, people, which are neutral. Think about it. What am I making this mean? And then ask yourself the question, two questions. Do I have certain rules in place that I have created for myself that I have to do in order to reach my goals and that are causing me to feel pressure? And number two, if I already were the next level DJ producer version of me who had already achieved that goal, would I still do these things? Would I still follow these rules? Okay, so that was it for today's live. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took away something from it. I would definitely love to hear from you. Let me know how that feels. Drop it in the comments below, and I would love to have another conversation around this with you. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Happy Wellness Wednesday.